Imagine destroying an entire civilization without firing a single arrow. That's exactly how the mighty city of Troy fell. The enemy didn't break down its walls, they entered through them, disguised as a gift. A giant wooden horse stood outside the gates. The people of Troy welcomed it inside, believing the war was over. Hidden inside were enemy soldiers. That night, they opened the gates from within, and Troy fell. History remembers it as the Trojan horse. Today, the Indian government believes that certain foreign-funded NGOs became modern-day Trojan horses. Now, before we go any further, let's be absolutely clear. India has never been against genuine charity. Millions of Indians have benefited from NGOs that build schools, run hospitals, provide disaster relief, and uplift communities. They are an indispensable part of our society. But the concern was never about genuine charity. It was about foreign influence hiding behind it. Because charity should build communities, not quietly reshape them. And the scale of the challenge is enormous. India is estimated to have nearly 3.7 million NGOs, making it one of the largest NGO ecosystems in the world. Some estimates suggest that nearly one-third of all NGOs across the G20 operate in India. Most are doing remarkable work. But when a system becomes this large, even a tiny fraction being misused can create consequences far bigger than their numbers. A vast ecosystem also makes it easier for outside interests to find local partners, fund campaigns, and make coordinated movements appear completely grassroots. When you host one of the world's largest NGO ecosystems, transparency stops being optional. It becomes essential. According to the government, the concern wasn't limited to religious conversions. Over the years, several strategic projects, from nuclear power plants to mining and major infrastructure, faced prolonged protests, litigation, and international pressure campaigns. In 2014, an Intelligence Bureau assessment warned that select foreign-funded NGOs were contributing to campaigns against strategic development projects and estimated that such disruptions could potentially reduce India's annual GDP growth by 2 to 3%. One of the most striking examples was the Kudankulam nuclear power project. Even then, Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh publicly stated that US-based NGOs were behind protests delaying the project. And that's what makes the story interesting. None of these warnings were new. Congress introduced the Foreign Contribution Act in 1976 and strengthened it again in 2010. Their own Prime Minister acknowledged concerns. Their own intelligence agencies raised warnings. They saw the Trojan horse, they just never shut the gates. The warnings were there, the political will wasn't. The Modi government argues that the answer isn't banning NGOs, it's making foreign funding transparent and accountable. So what has actually changed? The government essentially did 4 things. It made NGOs clearly declare exactly what foreign money would be used for, ensuring that funds received for one purpose couldn't quietly be diverted elsewhere. It required organizations to specify where they would operate and strengthen disclosure requirements, making their activities far easier to track. It explicitly barred foreign contributions from being used for proselytization or organized religious conversion under the religious category. And finally, it tightened oversight by restricting foreign nationals from key roles in most cases and raising compliance standards, so inactive or shell organizations could no longer continue indefinitely. The objective, the government says, is simple. If foreign money enters India, every rupee must be traceable and accountable. But the reforms don't stop there. A separate FCRA amendment bill, currently before Parliament, proposes creating a designated authority with powers to take over assets created using foreign funds if an organization repeatedly violates FCRA provisions or loses its registration. Supporters say this closes one of the biggest loopholes, where organizations could lose their license but continue holding land, buildings, and infrastructure built using foreign money. Critics call these measures excessive. Supporters respond with a simple argument. Transparency isn't repression. Accountability isn't censorship. Foreign funding isn't an entitlement. And India is hardly doing something unprecedented. The United States has the Foreign Agents Registration Act, or FARA. Australia has its Foreign Influence Transparency Scheme. The United Kingdom has introduced its Foreign Influence Registration Scheme. Democracies across the world regulate foreign influence in different ways. So perhaps the real debate isn't whether charities should exist. They absolutely should. The real debate is whether foreign funding should be transparent, accountable, and used only for the purpose it was received. Because every nation protects its borders. But in the 21st century, borders aren't challenged only by armies. Sometimes they're challenged by influence. History teaches us that civilizations rarely fall because someone breaks down the gates. They fall because they unknowingly open them. History remembers Troy because it ignored the warning. India has chosen a different path. Not by shutting its doors to charity, but by asking one simple question: who's really inside the horse?